Sir, what did you witness while you were there?
I witnessed all the things you mentioned. I witnessed a nutrition crisis for kids where November, when this started, 6 months ago this started, people should have been harvesting. They can't now plant. An education crisis. I mean, we know there's hundreds of millions of kids around the world out of school. These kids aren't not just in the classroom, they're in a conflict zone. They've seen water systems smashed and looted and health systems. Remembering, Becky, a lot of these parts of Teiggray are quite developed. There's good agriculture, good universities, good healthcare. That's been looted, that's been destroyed, and yet again, kids are suffering really gravely, and it's kind of getting worse every single day.
Can you just give us a picture? I mean, this has been a conflict that's been going on now, James, for 6 months. Can you give us a sense of the daily threats that women and children face in Teiggray?
Yeah, unfortunately I can. I mean, for example, one girl out of so many I spoke to, 16 years old, doing really well at school, nice school, great at physics, liked innovation is what she said. Conflict hit. She loses her brother and her father in a matter of days. She walks for 300 kilometres with her little brother on her back in broken flip-flops. And then when we see her, she's got nothing. She's just looking for a chance. She's looking for food. Now, UNICEF will get her in a temporary learning space and will give her some protection, but there are hundreds of thousands of kids like this. I heard far too many stories from children who'd been raped. You know, like a 14-year-old girl, Becky. I mean, she's a girl, you know, she's brave and clever, but she's a child, and she'd been raped by military. These kind of really, I mean, conflict is always cruel to women and kids. But in this kind of scenario where there's no front line and therefore women and kids are so often in the middle of that conflict, this is being particularly brutal to girls and their mums.
What does sexual violence as a weapon of war in a conflict like this do to children and young women? I mean, what's the impact, James?
It's heartbreaking. I mean, literally, if I talk about the people I spoke to, they're really brave. And obviously, I'm only speaking to those people who, it's a tip of the iceberg, the cases we see, because they're the ones who fought through a cultural barrier of shame to report it, or found our health centre, or got transport, or got through the conflict. And what it does, I mean, some of these are grossly violent, Becky. Some of these were groups of soldiers over multiple days in front of a child or in front of a husband. And what it does is it shatters them. You know, anyone who hears the story has sleepless nights. These children and their mums, girls or their mums, you've got years of time it takes to get over it. Now, again, UNICEF will be there. We will be there with psychological support. We'll be there with dignity kits and everything we can. But let's make it perfectly clear, you know, that the authorities need to denounce these things very publicly, and perpetrators need to know that there's an accountability, and that sexual violence in conflicts is a war crime, is a breach of international law. But first and foremost, despite all the people who are saying this needs to stop, it's not stopping, Becky. You know, I saw one single centre where we have 3 reported cases a day. It's the tip of the iceberg. It's immensely damaging for children, and it's very hard to see how they get over it. UNICEF, as I say, will be with them every step of the way, but we need the parties to the conflict to stop doing this.